A green Chinese Model 3. Would you ever drive it? Or more specifically, a green Xpeng P7. That is the topic of tonight's video. Obviously, we're looking at Xpeng stock. And one thing that I wanted to start off with, one thing that I wanted to think about before we started filming the episode properly, I just wanted to take a quick look at this. I want to get you guys' opinion in the comment section. We're looking at this extreme edition or the limited edition wing edition of the Xpeng P7. Is in a very bright green colour. It has obviously gull wing doors, similar to that of like a Lamborghini Aventador, something along those lines. Very, very interesting car. Would you ever drive this vehicle? Anyway, tonight we are looking at Xpeng stock. This video is basically going to be all about the P7 because I think even though the G3 is going to be a better selling car in Europe, the company is not really in Europe yet. I mean, yes, we've had a few vehicles shipped out to Norway, but there are not really too many cars in Europe at the minute. I can name many countries' cars, which you will see in England or in, any other European country, France, Italy perhaps, but this is not one of those companies which is there yet. So I think we need to think about where the company is at the minute and then where the company is going. Because yes, like I just said, to conclude, even though the G3 is an amazing and cool car, have you ever thought about the full potential of the P7? Honestly, I think this car does actually have potential, even though it's a sedan in what you could call a dying sedan market. I read a very sad article today about the Volkswagen Passat in America actually being discontinued, unfortunately, but I still think that a lot of these sedans do have real big potential, Xpeng being one of those. So sorry for the rant, we're going to have a quick look at the stock price. Once again, we are positive. We all know how this one happens. We saw a little bit of a correction around here, but once again, the stock is trending up. Now, obviously, you guys know the Xpeng story, especially if you're following the channel. Let's just look out to the 5-day. Let's look from the lows of the week all the way to the highs. We're up about 30%. On the month, obviously, we're up hugely, 178% plus. On the 6-month, we're up absolutely insanely, about 200% or so. So yeah, I think this is going to continue in the future, but I really just want to explain why. I want to take a minute to look specifically at the P7, because if you guys don't really know, we're going to come back to this in just a moment, but if you guys don't really know, the Model 3 is the best-selling electric car in the entire world for 2019, and for obvious reason, but this does show that people are looking for the sedans on this list still, and at a cheap price, and I think the P7 is something which we all need to consider, because this is like China's, or at least Xpeng's answer to, a Model 3. Whether you guys like the Tesla more or whether you guys like the Xpeng car more is completely on you, but rather picking which one's your favorite, I think it's important to consider the potential of this company in the future. So what I'm going to do is talk about, the features of the car, why the car may succeed, why the car does have potential over in China and in other markets around the world, and a few other things which you should know. So if that does sound like a good plan for tonight, please do like, please do subscribe. Looks like we're on 114 subscribers, sorry, 714. We've done a huge gain recently, and if we can just keep this up, we're trying to get to 1,000 after all. So if you could just help us by pushing us up a little bit, it would be appreciated. On top of that, I just need to say quickly, we have a Discord server. We're going to be talking about stocks on there. Come and join us. Link is in the description. It's completely free, obviously, and it's just a great place to be. Right then, let's get back to the actual Xpeng car. So obviously we're going to look at this article in just a moment. What I'm going to look at first though is this graph for the United Kingdom. Now, I've said this many a time, I've used it in many videos because I think it is a very useful tool. Apply this to whichever country you are in. If you want to do your own due diligence, feel free to, and just type in your own country and you'll be able to find these details. Obviously, I am from the United Kingdom, so these are the details from my country, but if we have a look, we can see the majority of sales are still petrol and good old dirty diesel. But what this means is that basically the electric car sector does have room to grow, quite significantly actually. So I know that for a lot of European countries, the United Kingdom being no exception, and I think America will be joining this policy as well. Basically, the Paris Agreement does state all diesel and petrol vehicles should be eradicated from sales by 2030. Obviously, that's almost 9 years away now because, of course, we're coming towards the end of 2020, thank goodness. But, it's coming up and it's creeping up slowly. But what this means is that there is going to be a market for electric vehicles, and of course, the cheaper the price, the better. And that is why I wanted to have a quick look at this graph here, because this graph really does show it. We're going to work our way down from the bottom, and of course, we're not going to talk about the cars which people don't know as well. We're going to look to the reputable, well, not necessarily irreputable, talking about the other ones, but the well-known brands, the cars which everybody all around the world can relate to. Starting off at the bottom. Because looking at the Tesla Model 3, I think that Xpeng will have a similar, potential in the market. And I think this could also heavily influence the Xpeng share price in just a few months, if not years. So yeah, the Model S was technically the worst selling car on the graph. I mean, not necessarily the worst selling car in the world, but the worst selling car on the graph. And of course, we all know Tesla's Model S. It's a very expensive car. People can't afford to buy the car. So yeah, moving up, we can see things like the Great Wall car. That's another Chinese brand, I believe. We've got BYD cars up there. We've obviously got the Volkswagen e-Golf. We all know this car. It's a Volkswagen Golf. Pretty sure it's sold in all countries. Perhaps in America, I might be wrong on this one. You call it the Volkswagen Rabbit, or at least you used to do that. So that is one of those cars which everybody knows. It's just an electric Golf. Nice car. Very small car though, and of course, for what it is arguably overpriced. So of course, it's not going to fit everybody's needs. We have the Model X, which is up there. That's the next reputable car. Obviously, that's over £100,000. I think it's over $100,000 too. Way out of almost everybody's league. People can't afford the car, and it won't sell well because of that. The Prius is a good car. Obviously, it's one of the cars which everybody thinks of when you think of a hybrid. But you know what? For a Prius, it's not a cool car. It's way overpriced. People can't afford to buy it. People don't want to buy it as much as they used to, because we have fully electric cars coming out now. If you care about the environment, you're going to get the Model 3. More on that in a moment. So yeah, we have the Renault Zoe. It's a very small car. The next brand which we all probably know is Mitsubishi. That's kind of like an SUV car. It's also a hybrid, so arguably not worth noting. We've got the BMW 530e. Very nice car, so it is. However, it is way overpriced. It's about 50 plus grand, way out of a lot of people's league. Why am I saying all this about all these different brands if we talk about Xpeng? Because Tesla's Model 3 is over $30,000 just, and you know what? It sold amazingly for 2019. Now, here's the thing. Tesla's Model 3 is going to be, or at least the other way around perhaps, it's a direct competitor to Xpeng's P7. And I think Xpeng might even be unveiling a new car, which is going to be even more reasonably priced in favour of the Model 3. But even where Xpeng stands with the P7 now by lowering the prices, the car is reasonably cheap for what it is. It's got a lot of cool features, arguably somewhat better than Tesla if you're going to, go with that tune. But regardless, we need to look at the larger sector rather than the stock. And the fact is, cheap cars always sell well. Cheap electric cars are something which we don't see much of. And when we do see cheap electric cars, they are not very good. We're looking at things like the Renault Zoe. You know what I mean? They're just very small cars and very impractical. The Model 3 was the first car of its kind, in my opinion, that we saw, or at least mainstream that we saw. And I think that Xpeng P7 is on a similar note. Personally, I can't name many, premium business coupes which people will want, or at least which people can afford to buy under the price of like $50,000 or $60,000. Obviously, we saw things like the electric BMW on the list, but obviously we all know that BMW 5 Series is a very expensive car. The Model 3, and the Tesla and the Xpeng P7 are very, very cheap for what they are. And if Xpeng can produce another car which is going to undercut Tesla, even better. But I think Xpeng do really have a great standing with the price of their car at the minute. So yeah, I just thought it was very important to look at the full potential of this vehicle and how this could propel the company in the future, because of course this is a market sector which we haven't seen before. Like I said, good, cheap electric cars, 4 doors, relatively powerful, relatively luxurious, things which people actually want for the right price. Looking into the future with agreements coming in, meaning that you can't drive petrol and diesel. Obviously electric will be the only option. The cheaper, the better. And I think Xpeng really have an advantage over all their competitors in this sector. with the exception perhaps of Tesla. But regardless, with Tesla being the only competitor, this company still does have a great chance. So I know that we didn't actually talk too much about the stock, but like I said, I think it's important to talk about the general field and know what we're dealing with at the minute, rather than, potentially just look at the stock and look at why the stock price is rising and why I think this company does have huge potential in the future. This company, does have the potential to go up there with Tesla, in my opinion, with these vehicles. They're very good vehicles, very good looking. And I asked people in the Discord the other day, do you like these cars? Would you drive a P7? Would you drive a G3 or whatever it's called? And a lot of people were like, yeah, the Xpeng P7 is a cool car, and I see where they are coming from there. So yeah, it's cheap, it's affordable, and I think that's why a lot of people will like it. So obviously, if you do agree with me, if you think it's a cool vehicle, please do tell us in the comments. Obviously, if you found this background look at this, company useful, please do leave a like and subscribe, and of course feel free to come join us on Discord. So other than that, thank you so much for your time. I will see you in the future. Goodbye.